A multi-vehicle accident on a Route 90 bridge in Maryland turns into a man jumping off that bridge while his teenage daughter stands there in horror watching him do it. If you enjoy stories about heroes and what they did in real life to make them heroes, go ahead and hit all the buttons, make sure you're subscribed and you got on your notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. And now for today's hero. On Sunday, May 2nd, 2021, a 51-year-old man that we'll just call Jonathan for now, decides to go into Ocean City, Maryland to run some errands along with his 13-year-old daughter Ava, and it starts out just as a typical Sunday for Jonathan and his daughter Ava. One of the stops that they make in Ocean City is this place called Atlantic Tackle, so Jonathan can pick up a part for his boat. So this Sunday is a great opportunity to use the time that Jonathan has off of work to take care of a few things and to spend time with his daughter. So Jonathan and his daughter, they drive from Berlin, Maryland to Ocean City, Maryland, which is not a very far drive, it's a little less than 10 miles. And on the way to Ocean City, they take Route 50 in order to make it into Ocean City. But after he finishes running his errands, he stopped at the Atlantic Tackle place to get the part for his boat. He decides not to go back the way that he came on Route 50, but he takes the scenic route driving through Ocean City and then taking a left on Route 90, which is the longer way home back to Berlin. The Route 90 bridge in Ocean City, Maryland drives right over this body of water called Assawoman Bay. That is the real name. The bridge that goes over the bay, it's pretty typical for it to have quite a bit of traffic. And at some point when Jonathan is driving over this bridge, all of a sudden he starts to hear the sound of squealing tires. And then he sees in front of him a truck that's swaying back and forth, just kind of looks like he lost control and he's overcompensating. As this truck is swerving left and right, all of a sudden he sees this truck hit a cement barrier that supports the guardrail that's on the bridge. And then the truck spins around and flips over and lands on its side about halfway over the rail, kind of jutting out over the edge of the bridge a little bit. And Jonathan was so focused on this truck as soon as he started hearing the squealing tires that he didn't even notice that this truck must have hit another car, because suddenly Jonathan notices this BMW coming towards his vehicle that has him and his daughter Ava in it. Jonathan tries to react, he swerves out of the way a little bit, but he still ends up getting hit by it. Just after getting hit, Jonathan is able to stop his vehicle, and the first thing he does is check on his daughter and make sure Ava is doing okay. Ava had been sprayed by some shattered glass because of the collision, so there was a little bit of shock there, but overall she was doing okay considering that they'd just been in an accident. In total, there were 5 vehicles that were involved in this crash on the Route 90 bridge that goes over Assawoman Bay. And when Jonathan was checking on his daughter to make sure that she's okay, other people that were in the other vehicles that were involved in this car wreck started getting out of their cars and checking on everybody else to make sure that everybody's okay that was involved in this car wreck. So Jonathan was also getting out of his car. He wanted to make sure that people were doing okay as well. And as he does so, he starts hearing yelling in front of him where the truck was resting on the guardrail and hanging out over the bridge. So from Jonathan's perspective, as he's looking at this truck, it's on its side and he can see the bottom of the truck. And as he's going towards it, he can see that one of the doors of the truck that is now on the top is opening and closing and opening and closing, like someone's trying to push it open, but gravity keeps pulling it back down. Because with the truck now on its side, it's not as easy as just sitting on your seat and opening your door that goes sideways, right? If you're in a vehicle that's on its side, you pretty much have to stand up and push the door up. So that's not going to be the easiest thing to do, especially considering that this person had just been in an accident. He's disoriented, the truck was just spinning and flipping, so getting that door open is not going to be the easiest thing in the world. So Jonathan tells his daughter Ava to stick by the car as he starts running towards this truck to go help. By the time Jonathan gets to about 20 or 30 yards away from the truck, he sees that the driver was able to free himself from the truck. The driver of the truck now being outside of the truck, he wasn't saying much, but he started to point down towards the bay, which is about 25 to 30 feet from where they are on top of the bridge. So Jonathan looks down at the water right where the man was pointing, and he sees that there's a car seat floating in the water, along with some items, things that have been ejected from the vehicle. And about 6 feet away from this car seat, he sees this 18-month-old baby girl. Now he notices that she's floating, she's laying on her back, her head is completely out of the water, her arms are moving, her legs are kicking, and she's wearing a little pink dress. And so right away, Jonathan looks up and he starts looking to the left and looking to the right, looking at the water, looking for any boats that may be in the area. The water around this bridge in the bay is usually a pretty popular spot for fishing, but at this particular moment, he doesn't see any boats at all. And right about then, as he's looking around for boats, his daughter starts calling for him, "Dad, Dad!" But Jonathan turns to her and he just reminds her to stay with the car. And then as he looks back and looks down, back towards the baby girl, he noticed that she has moved. Looking down at her from the top of the bridge, he notices that she's not on her back anymore. She had flipped onto her stomach and her face is now in the water. At this point, Jonathan is done looking around and now he just reacts. He takes off his shoes, although later he would say that he doesn't even know why he took them off in the first place, but he takes his shoes off. And then he climbs over the guardrail of the bridge, so he's on the opposite side that the street is on. He yells over at his daughter Ava to grab the first firefighter she sees. And as soon as he does that, he lets go of the railing and he jumps off the bridge into the bay below. And now here's Ava standing there. She's a little bit shocked that she had just been in an accident. And now she's completely terrified because she just watched her dad jump off a bridge. Jonathan hits feet first in the water. The water here is actually kind of shallow, but luckily Jonathan, he hits right and he doesn't hurt himself. Once he pops back out of the water from the jump, he immediately goes and he swims over to this baby girl. And when he reaches her, he lifts her up out of the water and gets a good look at her. And her mouth is open, but her eyes are only partially open. He puts this little girl high up on his shoulder and he starts aggressively patting her on the back. And after just a few seconds of aggressively patting this girl on the back, she spits up a bunch of water. She starts coughing and then she takes a big deep breath. This little girl could have easily drowned, but thanks to Jonathan's quick thinking and his willingness to react the way that he did, by literally jumping off a bridge, this little girl is breathing again. Jonathan and this little girl would remain in the water for a few more minutes until a man named Joseph Ortle, who was on his pontoon boat with his family that day, he saw that something was going on at the bridge, so he brings his boat over and he would get right up to Jonathan and this baby girl, and Jonathan would climb the ladder of this boat with the baby girl and board their pontoon boat. Joseph then took Jonathan and this baby girl to shore. One of the first responders that was on scene that day made sure that he made it a point to go over to Jonathan and shake his hand. Out of the 5 cars that were involved in the accident that day, 7 people would be sent to area hospitals for various injuries to get treatment. This 18-month-old girl would be flown by helicopter to Johns Hopkins Children's Center in Baltimore. She would be released from the hospital the very next day. The Route 90 bridge was closed for 6 hours that day because of the accident. And for 4 or 5 days, this story made national news. Everybody was hearing about this guy who jumped off a bridge to save a little baby's life, but nobody knew who he was. And Jonathan, he didn't want anybody to know who he was until he made quite sure that he knew that this baby was okay. So for the better part of a week, Jonathan was a mystery hero, and he wouldn't reveal who he was until that Friday when he revealed himself to the public at the Ocean City Fire Department, where he was part of one of their kitchen table discussions. And it was there that the country would find out that this mystery hero was 51-year-old Jonathan Bauer of Berlin, Maryland. And Jonathan would remain an extremely humble hero. It was also a condition of Jonathan's that he would only reveal himself if the first responders were also recognized for their hard work and for their job well done. The Ocean City Fire Department would make Jonathan, his wife Wendy, and his daughter Ava honorary members of the fire department. The mayor of Ocean City would also award Jonathan a plaque for his heroism and his bravery. Jonathan was also a recipient of the Carnegie Heroes Medal. The Carnegie Heroes Medal is the highest honor in North America for civilian heroism. Wendy says about her husband that this is just what Jonathan does. If you knew him, you wouldn't be surprised that he did something like this. That's just his character. The best part of this story, of course, is the fact that Jonathan saved this baby's life. The second best part of this story is that Jonathan's wife, Wendy, would share that the irony of the situation is that Jonathan is actually afraid of heights. And now, Ava is hoping that her dad will finally ride the Ferris wheel with her on the boardwalk. But I haven't found any news if Jonathan rode the Ferris wheel yet or not. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's hero. Remember, make sure you're subscribed and you've got on your notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. Thanks again. See you on the next one.